Mishra can just start, let me introduce the director. And I'd also like to welcome director in the session. And sir, this is a seminar, and the topic of discussion is that raising capital for the startup is crowdfunding the answer. This is the topic of discussion, and we have Professor Abhishek Mishra, who is Associate Professor in the General Global Law School, and yes, Dr. Ajay Kumar, the Director of the college. He is heading this institution for the past 15 years, more than 15 years, and any word for his leadership and his commandeer is something which no words can define. You can just understand that the past 15 years he is the director of this institution. I don't think that I can spell it out that what are the qualities this man has and how he has taken this institution for the past 15 years. So sir, welcome to the session, and now I would like to request you to come and speak few words.
First of all, you must see what is IIC, Institution Innovation Council, right? It is the one of the topmost branch of the Ministry of HRD, now Ministry of Education. As far as the students all over India is concerned, they are basically innovating. They're not looking for jobs, they're creating jobs. Here we are developing a mindset that after completing your programs, you should not look out for jobs. You should think on that I should be a job propagator rather than a job seeker. This is the IIC method, one. Number two, the topic which you put over there is crowdfunding the answer. For your venture capital, there's an angel response to that. One part I can see, your faculty member, Rahul Tripathi is there, and he has lost his, I think so, your cousin brother, his real brother, in a road accident by a policeman, and he is left with a young child and his wife only. So they have raised this thing on the crowd, and crowdfunding has been done. People feel to be linked with their compassion. They have reached to you, extended their hands to safeguard the future of the child who are in the age bracket of 4 years or so. But when we are talking of some kind of a venture means a philosophy in which you think that this you can be able to make it possible. All good organizations, if you talk about the Tata, Reliance, all these are the recession babies. When there is a recession, new things emerges. We feel it because all the input cost goes down. Your means of production cost goes down. But when it's a boom time, every cost is on the higher side, so you cannot make an entry over there because the price of each and everything is on the higher side. So now we have been seeing that world is in turmoil condition. Russia-Ukraine war. We are thinking that there is going to be a backlash with the Taiwan and China also. There is going to be stimulating experiences with South Korea and the North Korea also. And there is the possibility of that POK can be one of the flashpoints in time to come, which the strategist, and today we have seen that the UK Premier is in India to make that whether India is going to take sides as far as the UK, Ukraine and the Russia war is concerned. We are on the edge. And believe it, business wants peace. Nobody wants war. This time when you are in this particular college or the institution, this is peace time for you. This is peace time. Any kind of warheads you can prepare over here. But once you are passing off this organization in market, there's a war. There's a war with your own fellow members, with your own classmates, with your batchmates, with the students of other universities. and with your age group. There's going to be war. There's going to be cutthroat competition. And every year this competition is going to be doubling because the age at every year the age factor you find the population doubles as far as India is concerned. So, dear students, when you are thinking of starting a venture, no doubt you believe in a concept. You think that this concept can be become a fruitful, bigger tree in time to come. You believe in the logics. You feel that this is going to be the right kind of thing for growth. You test those things through the pilot study. When the pilot study gives you right kind of testimony, yes, it can be able to crack the nut. Then you want some funding to make it possibility of as a dream project. But mind it, there is some events, some things which are preconceived, some things are post-conceived ideas. Right conceiving of the idea is very important. When we talk of a Tata Nano example, Tata Nano investment was 2,000 plus crores and it's a big failure. Reason being, idea is good, but it's outlived its utility, keeping in view the change of the production process from Sanat to the Gujarat is concerned. That is lost the major time frame. So, if you have got some idea and if you want to make it bloom, you have to take note of the time trajectory. Everything grows by the time trajectory. Everything you want to now raise cassettes, it's not possible. But 20 years back, cassettes productions are there. Then the CDs, then the DVDs, then the online musics. There is a constructive destruction. We destroy the old one when we come out with a new one. Constructive destruction. We destroy the old one and bring out the new solutions. So think of a new solutions which is going to be more cost effective and easy to make you through. If you can be able to deliver those through the masses, then you feel that that particular area can be a big shot in time to come. So, my dear friends, believe in yourself, do the research, choose the right platform, offer more than just the idea. When we are putting it, the idea does not invite an investor. You have to show that idea once propagated, how much revenue it can generate and at how much time it can be able to deliver the goods. So along with the idea, you have to give the what kind of output it can generate, what is going to be a target audience, who you want to put up those trajectories that this is my target audience, create the marketing material, what is the market material which can be able to make the idea click in the mind of right kind of prospects. Set your goals that this is the first year time frame, this is the 2 years down the line time frame or 15-year time down the line time frame, and make the reward worthwhile. What you are going to get as a reward, revenue, that's going to be much more. That means that calculation can be done on your thing. And get yourself personally, work on spread the word. It's word networking, through networking, word spread that this is the idea and this is going to take on with the word through networking side. You can get the feedbacks. When you communicate, you get the feedbacks. Accept the feedbacks, because sometimes it seems that the person giving the feedback is not so good, but sometimes it makes sense. So you have to make through that each and every feedback is accountable and follow through your what you promises, because your stay in the market is only through what you promise. If you could not be able to deliver your promise, you are out of the market. So these are the 5-6 points which we have to keep in mind as far as the crowdfunding is concerned. And sir is going to tell you what kind of techniques you require to do the crowdfunding and whether this crowdfunding is the appropriate answer to have a startup. Is this the right type of thing which we have to go in for a startups, crowdfunding, or there are some other avenues available to us? So this course will be taken up by the experts from here onwards. Thank you very much for the patient hearing from me, my side. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, I would like to introduce to you the guest speaker for today's program, Professor Abhishek Mishra, who is an associate professor in the Jindal Global Law School. He earned his law degree from National Law School and LLM degree from the National University of Singapore, where he was adjunct faculty graduate scholar for the year 2014-15. He has spent 7 years in the industry working in different capacities with law firms and as in-house counsel with multinational companies. His area of interest is business and commercial laws and international trade law. Professor Abhishek is also a prolific writer, as you can guess from the attire which is carrying today, and has published various articles on current issues in newspaper, for example, Financial Express, Hindu Business Line, etc. He also advises on a pro bono basis with various non-profit organizations and startup companies. Students, a huge round of applause for Professor Mishra. Welcome, sir, and now the stage is yours.
Now, before we start, I would like you to think about certain questions. Some of the startups we know which have now become unicorn. For example, Zomato. Was the idea very special? The Zomato. Then how is it that we are talking about it here, and not owning it? We all have that idea, What is Zomato? Pick up 2 samosa from a restaurant, deliver it to your home. Nothing special about the idea. Then what makes Zomato so special? So what I have learned in my days when I was in the industry is the execution. How you execute your idea. That's what makes it different. Look at Ola. What is it doing? Aggregating the taxis. Not something very special about the idea itself, but about the execution. So in that framework, I'll be discussing crowdfunding. My discussion is not limited just to crowdfunding, but through this path to understand how do you execute ideas? Because I have worked with a number of startups. I've advised a number of startups. I've worked with a number of multinational companies. So before I start, I'll just give you my brief background. In 2010, I completed my graduation in law from National Law School, and then I joined a law firm in Delhi. I was senior associate corporate practice in 2014 when I got full scholarship from National University of Singapore to finish my master's in corporate law. After finishing my LLM from NUS, I joined a hedge fund in Singapore itself. I returned to India around 2016. I became the legal head of a company in Delhi. And my last job was with Hewlett Packard, where I was the senior contract negotiator for North America and Western Europe. So that was in 2018. 2018, I then joined Jindal, where I now teach business law and contracts. So that is my brief background. With that brief background, I will try to throw some light on the execution part. Now, one thing we do not understand is what exactly is a company. It has become a very generic term in these days. Whether you are having your lunch or your breakfast, we are generally talking about Reliance, Tata, Mukesh Ambani ne ye shayad kiya hota to shayad aaj, better hota. It becomes so easy for us that we forget what exactly is company as a concept. So, since I only have, I believe 1 hour, so because I have to sum up in 1 hour, so I'll just take you through the emergence of the concept and then I will relate it to the concept of crowdfunding. So company When did the concept itself emerge? What was the reason? And when I say that what is the reason behind company, I ask this question because we have age-old, tested models of sole proprietorship and partnership. From time unknown, business is being run. We have businessmen. And we had models also. Sole proprietorship and partnerships. Then why this concept of company? What was the problem and how that problem was solved by this new concept? Around 18th century, 18th, 19th century, that was a time of industrial revolution. The small cottage industries suddenly became big manufacturing units in Europe. Huge capital was being mobilized. Now you needed an entity that could facilitate that mobilization of fund. And why? Why partnership could not do it? The biggest problem with partnership and sole proprietorship was that it carries with it unlimited liability. That if something goes wrong with the business, you have to pay from your own pocket. Your house, your estate, all your assets are at risk. So whenever you will see a partnership or a sole proprietorship, for example, the general store in your colony, that is a sole proprietorship. So you talk about sole proprietorship, these are some of the smallest business that you will see around. And that goes with partnership as well. And the reason for that is unlimited liability. That if something goes wrong with the business, then the creditor has an interest in your personal property. He can sell your house to recover the debt. Right? So in the 18th and 19th century, during Industrial Revolution, the question was, who will take this risk? Right? So there was a need of an entity who could cater to this new emerging need. And the answer was company. Right? So if you see, the first Companies Act was in 1844. Now I've drawn a chart. I've drawn a chart because I want to show you that the Indian Companies Act was very closely following the English Companies Act. So the first English Companies Act was in 1844. Within 6 years, we had the first act in India as well. So the first Indian Companies Act was in 1850. Right? And this gave this distinct legal entity, separate legal entity. Now I won't go into the concept because that will take up too much time. But the biggest advantage of a company is that it's a separate legal entity. It is separate from its shareholder. It is separate from its owners. If something goes wrong with a company, you can only lay your claim against the assets of the company itself. You cannot file a suit against the directors or shareholders. Right? So that was the biggest solution provided by the entity called company. Now, I bring your attention to the second last, the sixth act, that is the 1956. Now, when we passed out in 2010, we would refer only to the 1956 Companies Act, right? Because the next Companies Act, it took almost 60-70 years, because now it is being, the new Companies Act was passed in 2013. Now, until 1956, Indian Companies Act wholly relied on the English jurisprudence. So even the 1956 Act, it closely followed the 1948 Act of the United Kingdom. So even the case laws that we used to refer was, if there was any dispute, we would refer to the judgments of England, the UK courts. Why? Because our law itself was drawn out from the English Companies Act. In 2013, the biggest achievement is that for the first time, India has moved away. It has developed its own jurisprudence in terms of Companies Act 2013, the nodal law which regulates the functioning of a company in India. Right? This is the first time that we have recognized the best global practices. We have developed jurisprudence in the sense now we have things like corporate social responsibility, which very few countries in the world follow, right? And definitely not United Kingdom. Right? We have one-person company where even a single person can establish his own company. These are new innovations under New Companies Act. So I hope this gives you a brief idea about how it emerged. Now the next question is, when we talk about a company, now we are moving towards, now I'm trying to understand the structure of a company. So or should we say, is company a new experiment? In 19th or 18th century, was it a new phenomena that came up in the name of company? Now this is a question that you can read on the slide and think for yourself. Can you see a company in this? And this is a real story, how Bhopal was established. So these two sentences tell us they provide some very critical information. If I say Bhopal is a company, then who established it? Dost Muhammad Khan. Dost Muhammad Khan can be called a promoter. The term that we generally use, promoters of a company. Right? So promoters are those people who establish a company. Right? Now, Dost Muhammad Khan is running Bhopal with the help of various officers. Right? A company at its head has directors who manage day-to-day affairs of the company. Right? And to execute the plan of the directors, we have employees of the company. So simple example, but follows very closely the structure of company. This is the second example. Can you locate the structure of a company in this example? So in this case, if we assume that India is a company, right? So we can say that Parliament is a board of directors. The MPs act as the directors of India. They take the most important decisions. Just like in any other company. The directors, they are always appointed by the shareholders. Just like in India, we the citizens of India, appoint the member of Parliament. Right? And these decisions taken by the Parliament, they are implemented by the executive, the officers, the government officers. Right? The same way it's done in the company. My idea through these examples is to show you that the structure of a company is not an innovation. If you think of anybody, where there are multiple members, it will come very close to the structure of a company. Think about your family. There would be someone who would be taking the final decision, right? There would be someone who would be, responsible for implementing it, right? Even in your family. So this kind of a structure, it's not uncommon. The only thing that Companies Act does is it gives it a name. It gives it a legal recognition. Now, if the corporate structure is so simple, if we can understand the company by looking at such extraneous example, so shouldn't the features of company be the same wherever you go? The company in India should be exactly same as the company in USA, or exactly the same as company in Singapore, or in London, or in China, right? That follows the logic. So let's see if that is true. So Paul Davis, he is the professor of company law at Oxford University, one of the most well-renowned figures. He says that yes, the company structure throughout the world is same. Wherever you go, the provisions might change, some here and there, nitty-gritties might change, but basically the structure, the entity remains the same, and 5 features. So I've taken example, Microsoft from US, Nestle from Switzerland, Alibaba from China, and Reliance from India. They all will have these 5 common features. These companies represent 4 different countries, but these features are common. This tells us that that this structure is not specific to a country, and that is the reason why we have multinational company. Have you heard of multinational sole proprietorship or multinational partnership? But we have multinational companies, right? Because there is a global phenomena attached to it, an acceptability attached to it. That if there is a company in China, it will have certain common features with the company in India. Now we are moving towards startup and crowdfunding. I hope everyone understands, the structure of a company, right? Now, one thing that is very critical and very critical for startup or the founders is valuation. For example, we say that India has now more than 5 unicorns. What is a unicorn? Can someone answer? What do you understand by a unicorn? Yes, you are 80% right. It's $1 billion. It's $1 billion or more startup, not a company. Right? So it's a term used in the startup world, where a startup is valued for more than $1 billion. It is termed as a unicorn. Right? So, for example, Ola, Zomato, Oyo, all these are unicorns that India has created. Now, the question comes, and this is a critical question if you want to start a company. How do you value your company? How do you say that my company is valued at 1 crore rupees? Or my company is valued at 100 crore rupees? Or 1,000 crore rupees? How do you come to that valuation? And this is critical. Why? Because when you get investment from an investor, it is based on the valuation of the company that it is calculated. So for valuation, there are some common methodologies, but you need to understand that for valuation there is no one strict method. If you go to a CA and if you tell him that I want my startup to be valued at 100 crore rupees, he will give you a formula where actually the valuation becomes 100 crore. If you tell him I want my company to be valued at 10 crore rupees, he will give you a valuation of 10 crore also. I was advising a company which had recently started its operation. It was in Green Park, Delhi. Within 5 months of operation, it was valued at 900 crore rupees. And its asset was 0. It was just working out of a rented space in Green Park. Right? So, valuation is a very big problem. How do you arrive at? But the most common methodology which is accepted amongst the investors is the revenue model. The revenue model is that how much revenue are you generating from the business? Right? We are not talking about profit or loss. We are talking about revenue. How much revenue are you generating? So it's, let's say in 1 year, if your revenue is, let's say, 1 lakh rupees, then the revenue model says that, based on the negotiation, it could be 5x to 15x. That is, the valuation of the company will be 5 times the revenue. That is, if the revenue is 1 lakh per year, then the valuation would be 5 times, that is 5 lakh to 15 lakhs. That will be the value of your startup, right? And that's how it is generally calculated. And definitely it depends upon your negotiation skills also and your team. If the team is good, your negotiation skills are good, then the valuation can go up to 40x as well. That even if you are your revenue is 1 lakh rupee, your company could be valued at 40 lakhs. Because it's a range from 5x, the general range is 5x to 15x. Now, in startup, what are you pitching? You don't have anything to show, you have just started your company, right? So, you are pitching your idea, you are pitching a future, right? Which is subjective. And that is why, it all depends upon your team, your conviction, how bright is your idea. If you have the right knowledge in that field, if you have some experience in that background, all these matters when you are negotiating, right? So, negotiation plays a very big role when you are discussing, the valuation of the company. Valuation also depends upon, I can give you an example where the startup was valued at 10 crore rupees. And they were very happy with that valuation also. They were ready to accept it. They signed the term sheet with an investor. The news went out that, that a certain fund is going to invest in X startup at a valuation of 10 crore. Right? A new investor came and said, okay, I think your idea is good. We'll give you a valuation of 15 crore if you accept money from us. And the terms and conditions remain the same. 4 new investors came up, and the valuation from 10 crore it went up to 40 crore, just like this. No negotiation, nothing. So that part, the negotiation part is subjective. It all depends upon demand and supply. Are there enough investors interested in your startup? So now the topic, crowdfunding. Equity crowdfunding. अभी तक माहौल बन रहा था. Now we will talk about the main topic for which we have gathered. So this was again, a video where this FLX bike is one of the most successful startup company which raised money through crowdfunding. These are some facts and figures that equity crowdfunding by 2025, it will be a $29 billion market. 37.3% on Kickstarter, which is one of the world's biggest platform for crowdfunding. 37.3 startups have been successful until now. And lastly, 95% of the market of equity crowdfunding is controlled by just 3 countries, and it does not include India. It's USA, UK, and China. Now, what exactly is crowdfunding? Can someone give me an example? What exactly is crowdfunding? It's self-explanatory, I think. You don't need to look elsewhere. Please.
जब क्राउड के अंदर जब फंडिंग करते हैं तो बेसिकली क्राउड फंडिंग बोलते हैं छोटे-छोटे अमाउंट.
Yes. Very, very nice answer. So a good example could be, during Diwali or Holi, we contribute a little amount, chanda. Exactly. In Hindi we have the word chanda. So this is like, you are giving chanda to a company. You are funding it. Right? Now, depending upon what you get in return for your chanda, what you get in return for your contribution, we have 4 types of crowdfunding. Right? It depends upon what is the outcome of your chanda. So, if the money that you have given is in the form of udhar or a debt, it is known as debt-based crowdfunding. Right? If you do not expect any return, like in Holi ka chanda, you do not expect any return. In that case, it is known as a donation-based crowdfunding. A very famous, a very popular donation-based crowdfunding in India is Keto, where you will see that that someone is sick and he needs money, and you go and donate 500 rupees, 100 rupees, 50 rupees, whatever you can contribute, expecting that probably it will reach him and it will benefit him. So you do not expect any return except that it gives you some peace, right? So that is a very good example of donation based. You have donated that money, right? And certain companies they reward you if you give them money. For example, if I am a single, so I would put it up that that all those who give me 1,000 rupees, they will get the first CD which I made, but they'll get the copy of my first song. All those people who give me 1,000 rupees. So that is like a reward-based crowdfunding, right? Now all those 3 are very much legal and existing in India. They are different websites. If you want to do some reward-based crowdfunding or you want to search for it, you can go to the website runde.in. Right? A very popular. We also have Indiegogo in India, which allows for all these crowdfunding. The last one is equity crowdfunding, which is the topic for today's discussion. In equity crowdfunding, against your investment, you get shares in that company, you get ownership in that company, you get equity in that company, and that is why the term equity crowdfunding, right? So again, I hope everyone understands that based on the outcome, you divide, crowdfunding into 4 types. So this is from Keto itself. This is a film, which was crowdfunded in India, Lucia, a successful company. A film. Debt-based crowdfunding. You can go to all these websites. The interest that you will get against your amount varies from 12% to 25%. Now again, personally I believe that you should always stick to the fundamentals. If your fundamentals are clear, you can resolve any issue. Now a fundamental question here is, why do we need crowdfunding in India in the first place? Right? What exactly is the need? And this is a new term. We never used to hear it before 2010. Equity crowdfunding, donation-based. So the need emerged because of the 2008 financial crisis. So the entire global economy went down, between 2010 and 2008, and unfortunately that was the time when I was passing out when I was completing my graduation. So the job market was very, very bad in India, there was a total slump down in business. So 2008 financial crisis, how did that lead to emergence of crowdfunding in India? So after 2008, the investors became very nervous in taking investment decisions. Most of the companies in India were being funded by investors from the Western countries, primarily United States of America. Right? After the 2008 financial crisis, they lost confidence. They stopped coming to India. Right? There was a crunch because the investors need money. Right? Now, how do you get that money? That is when one of the several answers was crowdfunding. If big investors from America cannot come, then I will take small amount from a number of Indians. Right? And then I will, with that money, I will run the company. Right? So it is the 2008 financial crisis. It is one of the positive outcomes, you can say, of the financial crisis, that many countries started thinking about crowdfunding. When you talk about equity crowdfunding, what is the major risk? Can I ask you, as logical and good students of IT University, is not something related to law or business. This is pure logic. When equity crowdfunding, what is the biggest risk? Think as an entrepreneur. When you're starting a company, what is the risk with equity crowdfunding? And that is true for any startup. You know how much Bill Gates owns in Microsoft? 3%. You know how much Elon Musk owns in Tesla? Does anyone know? Yes. If I am correct, maybe you are correct, you can Google it, but I think it's 13%. Right? So the promoters will always, because the more investment you take, the more equity you have to issue, the more shares you have to issue. And that's why, the promoter will always be, in terms of equity, will be at a loss. Right? Yes. Yes.
सर क्लाउड फंडिंग सिर्फ उन्हीं कंपनी के लिए फायदा होता है सर जिनकी ऑलरेडी सोसाइटी में अच्छी इमेज है बिकॉज सर मतलब इतनी इजीली क्लाउड फंडिंग मिलती है स्टार्टअप वगैरह के लिए इसमें बेनिफिट नहीं होगा और सर अगर आप क्लाउड फंडिंग करेंगे तो उसको सर मैनेज करने में बहुत ज़्यादा दिक्कत हो जाएगी क्योंकि हमारी इक्विटी बहुत ज़्यादा स्मॉल पार्ट में डिवाइड हो जाएगी एंड सर डिविडेंड देते टाइम और बाकी सारी फॉर्मेलिटी करते टाइम भी बहुत ज़्यादा डिफिकल्टी रहेगी ये इतना सारा जो इन सारी चीज़ को करने में बहुत ज़्यादा पैसा खराब हो जाता है
It's complicated.
Yes.
Right? Requires a lot of resources which may not be available to a startup. Now, that may not exactly be true, and I'll tell you why. How we are conducting equity crowdfunding is, there are dedicated websites which invite these companies, small companies, and they say that you do crowdfunding through us. We have 10 lakh subscribers. We will send out a single page document saying that that you are a very good singer, or probably you have come up with a very good electric bike, or you have a prototype of a good electric car, and today it is available at let's say one share is available at 10 rupees, while after 10 years it may become 500 or 1000 rupees, right? So today the equity, the share is available at a very cheap price. We can tell this to our subscribers, and probably they will be ready to invest in your company. There are dedicated websites, and some of them, as I've already told you, it's like the biggest website is Kickstarter or Indiegogo, which takes the responsibility that I will get the investor for you. Right? You just join our website. So here, in a equity crowdfunding, there are three constituents which are very important. One is the entrepreneur himself who owns the company. Second, the website through which he will crowdfund. And third, the crowd itself, which will agree to his idea, which will find some notion and they will be willing to invest, right? So there are three constituents. The biggest problem with equity crowdfunding is a very simple answer. Is financial illiteracy. Today I pitch a good idea to you. I show you some very good pictures. I'm telling you 50% of you will invest 10 rupees in my company. This is the biggest risk, because just by looking at this example, think what will happen to a country with a population of 1.3 billion. And this becomes more serious when you know that almost 90% of the startups fail in the first year itself. Right? So when this notion came before SEBI outrightly declared equity crowdfunding illegal in India. They said, we just cannot allow it because the population of India is not financially literate. There will be fraudsters. So many people who are running good companies, they have fled the country. Although there are so many laws and regulations in India, still we cannot find them. If we allow such a thing like equity crowdfunding, it will put at risk a lot of members of the population. So this was declared as illegal in India. Now, what are the current practices? It may be illegal in India, and I've identified the risk for you. But is it true for every other country? So it's not. Globally, you can divide the countries into three categories. Countries like New Zealand, Italy, where they came up with a new law to regulate equity crowdfunding. That if it is different, if it is risky, that we will come up with a new law that will take care of that riskiness. Right? The second category is of those countries who said that, in our own law we will create an exemption. For example, USA and UK. And the third category in which India falls, which have declared equity crowdfunding totally illegal. That we do not think that the country is ready as of now to have this kind of a risky structure. Right? I've already discussed the problems. The biggest problem is, financial literacy. The general consumer does not know how to read balance sheet. But what are the benefits? Are there any benefits? Why should we consider? Because a question was raised in Parliament also that whether we can allow equity crowdfunding in India in 2019. And why the question was raised? What is the benefit? Because even now in 2021, the investors from USA have not returned. The money that we are getting, if you look at most of the unicorns, whether it's Paytm, whether it's Zomato, all of them are being funded by investors from China and Hong Kong, Japan. Right? So, after the recent when the relation with China hit turbulent water, the question was asked, shall we allow Chinese investors to control big Indian companies? For your knowledge, companies like HDFC Bank, 1% of HDFC Bank is controlled by China. And it is the largest private bank of India. The question was that, shall we rely on China to such an extent? Is it good for the economy? Right. So anyway, the question is still open. In future, maybe we will have a law which will allow for equity some of the unicorn in India, right, with more than $1 billion valuation. These were startups sometime before, but were successful in raising enough money, and now are some of the largest conglomerates in India. In benefit, and this is the last slide. So when I talk about the benefits, one benefit which cannot miss your eye is that when you crowdfund a company, this is a very, very nice way of gauging if the customers are interested in your product. Because only if you find the product, interesting, will you invest in a company. So if a company is successful in raising enough capital through crowdfunding, it means that there's a demand for its product. People, the general public, likes the product. So it can be said that this is, in technical terms, we call it proof of concept. That there is a proof of concept that the general public enjoys the product. Right? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Such a tricky, complicated topic with very simple words. I think students might have understood each and every word which was written. Am I right? So you got your feedback as well. Thank you so much. Anything you want to ask, sir? Any question from you guys?
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Krishna, and I wanted to ask you: mutual fund also counts as crowdfunding, right? No, it doesn't. That was the question I was asking.
Anything else?
So when we talk about mutual fund, it is not a startup per se. Your business is to take money and then to invest in the stock market. And why would someone not directly invest in the stock market but will invest through the mutual fund? Because the mutual fund says that yes, I have people from Harvard Business School. I have people from IIM Ahmedabad. These are financial experts. We can manage your money way better than you can do it yourself. So you do what you are expert in, that is going to your office. We will do what we are expert in, that is investing your money in the stock market, and we'll give you a better return. Right?
Thank you so much, sir. It was good. And for me, it was something very new. I was thinking for the entire session, you would say yes, it is a good answer. Because I have seen people getting lots of money through crowdfunding. But at the end of the session, I got to know what is illegal. So now we need to fight it to make it legal. And you, sir, now this is your job. You are from law school, college. I think you guys can fight it better than us. So now I would like to invite Mr. Vinod for a very small talk to the students.
Very good afternoon to all of you. So now lots of new career options are coming after your graduation, right? So I personally handle law program in Jindal, right? LLB 3 years honors program. So do you have any idea about which kind of students are now looking for law after their bachelor's or master's? Which kind of a stream students they are thinking about? Any idea? कौन से बच्चे लॉ करते हैं कुछ पता है लोगों को जिनका पॉलिटिक्स में इंटरेस्ट हो? Yes, anyone? देखो जमाना बदल रहा है, काफी चीजें चेंज हो रही हैं, आपको भी अपना थॉट प्रोसेस चेंज करना पड़ेगा, राइट? तो which kind of students are now thinking about to do law? Humanities, वो तो एक ट्रेडिशनल है, जिन्होंने ह्यूमैनिटीज लिया है, BA, political science, English honors, they are those people who are thinking about to do law after their bachelor's. Anyone else? और कौन कर सकता है law? हाँ जिनको lawyer बनना है हाँ ठीक है वही law कर सकते हैं. Anyone else? और किस स्ट्रीम के बच्चे ऑप्ट कर रहे हैं आजकल? साइंस. साइंस में कौन से स्ट्रीम्स के बच्चे? कॉमर्स, बीकॉम ऑनर्स, राइट? बीकॉम स्टूडेंट्स. So let me just, I think, थोड़ा सा मैं आपको 5 मिनट दूंगा आपकी, ठीक है प्लीज. Which kind of students normally who apply to Jindal? You will be amazed. After their graduation, most of the students they come from, humanities, right? English honors, political science, sociology. Then management students, BBA. Lots of students they apply after their MBA also. After their MBA, even after having a few work experience, with 3 to 5 years, 10 years work experience, when they become a CEO or GM or vice president of any company, then they require these legal knowledge to sign documents. If you are a vice president of any company and you have to sign few documents, right, some deals, if you are not legally aware, you can be a big problem. Your one sign can spoil your whole life. Do you know this? जब आपको एक कंपनी रन करनी होती है एज अ मैनेजमेंट स्टूडेंट और कोई भी, आपको बड़े बड़े डिसीजंस लेने होते हैं, राइट? अगर आपको मार्केट में एक होर्डिंग्स भी लगवाना है, यू शुड बी लीगली अवेयर वेदर इट इज राइट और नॉट. आपके खिलाफ एक चलान है, राइट? Got it? And it's a very noble and very powerful profession, right? And you can visit our website, and we do provide up to 100% scholarships, right? So whosoever have any doubts, so they can discuss with me. We have few material also, few information brochures, so you can correct it. And it was a golden opportunity for all of you to have an interaction with our professors, right? The crowdfunding, especially. अभी शायद आप लोगों को feel नहीं होगा. Maybe after 2 years or after 3 years, after 5 years, when you start working in a company and when you start something of your own, then आपको याद आएगा कि कुछ ऐसा भी concept होता है crowdfunding. You need to raise funds. You need to start your own companies, start your own businesses, right? So thank you, thanks a lot. If you have any questions later on, so you can come and have an interaction with sir also, personally, right? Thanks a lot.
Thank you, students. Why we have discussed, the objective was to make you understand that what is crowdfunding and why we are organizing session, to make you understand in case you're interested to have your own startup, so how you can really put thinking and how to raise capital for your startup. So this was the objective of today's session, and as I said, we are lucky and fortunate to have Professor Mishra among us. And Vinod sir, thank you so much for bringing him to us. Madam Deika, thank you so much. And thank you students, the greatest stakeholder of this program. Thank you for being such a patient listener, and thank you for really listening to us. I hope we have made certain senses here. Thank you so much.